The following is a video presentation from the Environmental Change and Security Program at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. Joseph Speidel, a professor at the Bixby Center for Global Reproductive Health at the University of California, San Francisco, discusses population, health, and environment issues and offers solutions for the way forward.
Hello everybody, I'm Joe Speidel. I'm a physician and professor at the University of California, San Francisco. And I've been working on population issues for many years. Today I'd like to spend a minute or two talking about population and environment. I think we seldom really focus on what's going on with the environment, and when we take a close look, we see the picture is really a lot worse than the average person perceives. Our exploitation of natural resources has greatly increased, especially in the last half of the 20th century. In 2005, the UN released a major study looking at what we are doing to life-supporting ecosystems. Unfortunately, that has not gotten a lot of attention. But if we look at what's going on with things like forest cover, we've lost about 50% since the beginning of pre-agricultural times. We've lost about a third of the Amazonian rainforest. We've lost about, well, let's put it this way. We something like 22% of the forest cover has been destroyed just in the last 100 years. And this is still going forward. It's not all bad news, though. There is some regrowth in places like Russia, Japan, Korea, and even in the United States. If we look at cropland, there's, again, the picture is really quite bleak. It's estimated that humans have turned about 10% of the Earth's surface already into desert, and we've degraded about a quarter of all croplands, and that's an area about the size of India and China combined. One result of this, of course, is poor nutrition. We're pushing 1 billion people who are chronically underfed, and the most startling thing is that 1 out of 3 children in developing countries, the poor countries in the world, suffers either mental or physical stunting because of lack of nutrition, or both. Our aquatic fisheries are in trouble. Something like 75% of them are either at their biological maximum or have exceeded that. One of the biggest threats to our continued welfare is global warming. And here again we see this is going to have really detrimental effects on crop growth. In the year 2003, there was a heat wave in Europe, and that is kind of a presage of what may occur 100 years from now. In other words, the worst heat wave that we've seen may be the norm. And what happened in that year? Well, over 50,000 Europeans died from heat stress. But aside from that, in France, the crop for fruit and for corn declined by 25%. In Italy, the decline was 35%. So drying out and high temperatures are a threat to global agriculture as well. Now, what does all of this have to do with population? Well, population works through 3 ways. First of all, it's the absolute numbers, and then how much they're consuming, and then the environmental impact of whatever is produced that is being consumed. So all 3 of these are important. It's not just numbers, but if you think back, in 1950 there were only 2.6 billion of us. Today there are 6.8 billion, and we're looking at a future where, if fertility does not decline, we would reach 11 billion by 2050. The medium projection the UN makes is 9.2 billion, but that's still very substantial growth. And if we could do something about unintended pregnancy, which is about 80 million a year, we could basically dramatically reduce population growth. We're growing by about 78 million a year. There's about 80 million unintended pregnancies. So obviously this could make a substantial dent in, if we could do something about that, would make a substantial dent in population growth. I think one of the biggest problems we face with regard to population is we don't have the funds to provide good family planning services. There are various estimates about how much money is needed, but about $15 billion a year is one estimate of what is required. It's also suggested by the UN conference at Cairo in 1994 that a third of this money should come from donors. Well, right now we're putting less than 20% of the needed funds into the picture. So certainly population alone is not the reason why our environment is in trouble, but it is an important one. We need to, in addition to family planning, we need to revise our economy. We need to go from a petroleum-based economy into a economy that's more electricity-based, and we need to generate that electricity from wind, photovoltaic, geothermal, and other sources that are sustainable rather than fossil fuels. Global warming threatens to, which is highly driven by carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, threatens to raise sea levels through melting of glaciers, melting of even Greenland and Antarctica. If there were a 10-meter rise in the sea level, that would inundate areas where some 600 million people live and create massive social disruption. So I think we have a very serious problem. The amount of attention being devoted to it is inadequate, and it's time to change our ways, create a new economy that is sustainable, and to give family planning the attention that it deserves.